Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I am so excited to have not only an incredible professional, but also an incredible friend and also a dancer here with me today. If you don't know him yet, this is the incredible Sebastiaan, and he and I have known each other for a couple of years now, as we both have a passion for dancing here in Bali and around the world. So Sebastiaan, I'm so excited to have you here.
Woo!
Thank you for joining.
Thanks for having me.
So for those of you those people who haven't gotten to know you yet, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, about your journey, and what you're passionate about?
Yes, what I'm passionate about, that's easy. I'm passionate about salsa dancing, zumba dancing, pretty much nothing much other than that. And why we're here today is because I specialize in helping people overcome social anxiety. That's something that I suffered from severely myself, and it took a long time to overcome. And I specialize in combining traditional psychology with something called energy psychology. And it helps you to overcome your social anxiety quicker, easier, and you can overcome it completely.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you get started on this? How did you figure out that you had social anxiety?
Right. Well, so I'm 37 now. And my problem started when I was about 12. And it started with facial blushing. And up until 12, I never had any anxiety, no blushing, nothing. But then something happened. A teacher made fun of me. I blushed in the class one time. And from that moment, I became afraid of blushing again.
Wow.
And that then got progressively worse. And then at 16, when girls came into the picture, now I was nervous in just about any situation. You know, when there was talk about relationships or sex or dating, or just whenever I was the center of attention, or when I was criticized, or when I was put on the spot, or when I was made fun of, like everything would make me blush.
Oh my
and
gosh.
Because of, it's horrible. And because of all of that, I was also afraid of that happening. So I was constantly in fear. I was also threatened for a while. So I was also afraid of my actual safety in the world. So I had a lot of fears and a lot of anxiety to deal with for a long period of time. And eventually I stumbled onto personal development, and initially just like a self-help book that did something. But when I was 17, I discovered like a secret online pickup community, and which it taught me a lot of unhealthy things.
Yep.
But it also taught me, things about your inner psychology. And when you get your inner psychology in order, you can actually feel confident. It's just that, the approaches that they suggested, which I tried, were not very effective. So affirmations, visualizations, and basically facing your fears. And they all have some value in certain contexts for some people, but for me, it was just very ineffective. And so I searched for other solutions.
But you didn't give up. You just kept on going until you found something that worked.
Yeah, right. So the suffering was so bad that it's kind of like, okay, there was no consideration of giving up. Like I was obsessed about personal development. So I was listening to personal development 24/7. Tony Robbins, or all the typical success literature. Yeah, and anything that I could find to feel more confident. Because before the age of 12, I had no anxiety. So I knew that something was wrong. And so I tried facing my fears, because that was supposed to be the gold standard. You have all these quotes: face your fears and the death is certain, feel the fear and do it anyway. All these inspirational quotes. Like my whole room was full of inspirational quotes to get myself to face my fears. And I did really in hindsight, pretty funny things, because I was really afraid of rejection.
Yeah.
So I was told that I could become rejection proof if I would um, walk up to girls and say, "Hey, you like me? Give me your number," and purposely get myself rejected, which is
Uh,
what I did. Yeah, which was extremely scary. I mean, I don't have any anxiety now. Actually, well, I feel some nervousness right now at this moment in this interview. But in general, this is not a problem for me anymore. So I would be able to do that. It wouldn't be a big problem. But it would
hmm.
still be something weird, or something kind of awkward, right? That's just
Yeah,
a
not
normal
social
reaction.
normal.
No, no, exactly. But back then, this was absolute horrific torture and
Yeah.
something I knew I was going to do ahead of time. So, anyway, I did it. And I got a buddy of mine to come along with me to the city, point out the girls, and it's a great adventure. And in the end, after the 20th that I walked up to, I felt pretty confident. I'm like, look at me, I'm rejection proof, I'm so proud of myself, I'm like, yeah, I'm the man. But my confidence that I got a couple of days later, it was gone again. And I did
Mm.
more things, like purposely embarrassing myself. I bought the brightest red lipstick, smeared it on my lips, made circles around my eyes, and then went into the city starting conversations with people. And people would be laughing at me, and um, I looked like a freak, right?
Yeah.
And so again, after about an hour, I'm like, I don't give a fuck what people think of me and look at me and blah, blah, blah. But a week later, all that was gone again. I did many other things, public speaking, high-fiving strangers, the weirdest things.
I
And
wish
it
you had a
all,
YouTube channel of all these videos. It sounds incredible.
yeah, right. If it had only been that popular back then already, this is when I was 17 or 18, 20 years ago. But anyway, that all didn't work. It only gave me temporary confidence. And so eventually, because I was so desperate, I found a technique called tapping, EFT. And that's the technique that changed everything for me. And that
Wow.
actually brought me lasting results.
Can
So
we pause here?
that's
I'm
what we're
not
going to
sure
talk about a bit.
everybody out
Yeah.
there knows what tapping is or EFT is. Can you tell us a little
Mm-mm.
more?
Sure. Yeah. So um, I find this YouTube video, and this guy is saying, well, this is a particular technique that often works where nothing else works. And what you do is you stimulate certain acupressure points on the body while you think of particular memories or limiting beliefs or negative emotions. And then the negative emotions are going to release, or the negative emotions connected to the beliefs are going to dissolve.
Wow.
And I'm like, yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah. Where's the buy now button? Or,
Uh-huh.
must be a scam. But I was desperate enough to follow it. And I asked on a forum, and I tried it out on myself. And eventually it all didn't work, but I ordered the DVDs. And here I saw psychologists, psychotherapists, coaches work with this technique and work with people with a variety of issues, anger issues, blushing issues, not feeling good enough, anxiety, fear. And I saw it work on screen. I watched like 60 hours of it. I'm like, it has to work for me. So then I went to the Netherlands. I did a workshop, and eventually the workshop leader came in to work with me because we worked in triads after the technique was taught to us. Now I'll get to what it is in just a second, but this is helpful to understand. And then they couldn't bring up any feeling in me because I was so numbed out to my emotions. So they
Mm.
brought in the workshop leader, and then the workshop leader asked me a bunch of questions. Eventually, he had me talk about how I didn't have a girlfriend, or how I hadn't got laid in the longest time, or something of that nature.
Yeah.
And it made me blush massively. And so now I was experiencing the emotion. He's like, now do the tapping. And then as I started stimulating these acupressure points while I was feeling that discomfort, it was like a plug was pulled, and all the emotion just drained out of my body. And within 2 minutes or so, I could talk about the fact that I didn't have a girlfriend, or that I was a virgin, or I hadn't gotten laid. I forgot which one of the three it was. Um, in front of all of these people, and I felt fine. I felt comfortable. I felt at ease, and like a
Wow.
sense of acceptance had come in. And it was a profound shift. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. This feels more powerful than any of all the stuff I've done combined. And that change was lasting. Now, it didn't solve my social anxiety, but it helped me see, okay, this is a technique I can use to really overcome this problem. So
Wow.
what EFT is are you familiar with acupuncture?
Hmm.
Yeah, most of your audience probably is. I mean,
I think
most
most
people
people are,
know what
it's pretty
acupuncture is.
mainstream
Yeah,
now.
right. So it's like acupuncture, but instead of using needles, you tap with the tip of your fingers on specific acupressure points on the body. And when you do that while you focus in on a particular problem, when you focus on a problem, how do you know you have a problem? Feels bad,
Yeah.
right? So the emotions connected to the problem and the thoughts connected to the problem, the emotionalized thoughts, I should say,
Yeah.
come to the surface. And then when you say you feel fear about a particular thing, you think about that particular fear, you start stimulating these acupressure points, and that begins to release that fear either quickly or slowly over time,
Mm.
usually quickly. And so there's 102 scientific studies that prove the effectiveness of this technique. And it meets the standards of evidence-based treatment set by the American Psychological Association for a number of conditions, including public speaking anxiety, test anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder. So it's a really awesome technique, and it's pretty well known by now. And
This
and
is
that's what it is.
incredible. And it sounds
Mm.
like it's pretty quick. It doesn't sound like you need an hour to do this. It doesn't
Oh,
sound like you need to go buy fancy equipment. It's literally, you learn the technique, you use your fingers, your head, and your emotions, and you go into it.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
incredible.
yes.
And especially when you mention PTSD, I think there's a whole new, I think people are just beginning to unravel how much trauma COVID caused in people's homes and their hearts and in their families. And to have something like this is really, really powerful. I'm curious, as a parent, is this something that you can do with your kids too? Do you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes. There's a couple of tapping points. We can go over them in just a sec. But once you know these tapping points, you can start tapping. Now, let me frame things properly though, because even
Okay.
though, yes, things can shift for you really quickly, we have a long-standing issue, even with a technique as powerful as tapping, it's going to take a period of time to overcome this problem completely. So
Mm.
if you are lucky, and I don't know exactly the audience I'm speaking to. I don't, my typical person that I work with, they've had social anxiety for a long time. Most, more than half of them for their whole life. It's a real big issue. It's connected to their identity, connect to a whole bunch of things. So it's a whole psychological approach.
Yeah.
Then it's going to take a longer period of time in order to address this issue. But tapping can get rid of a simple snake phobia, for example, in as quickly as 20 minutes.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it
That's
just
incredible.
depends.
It depends. No,
Yeah.
I hear that. Now, what I'm noticing is that people are emerging from COVID times. It's been a couple of years of just such radical shifts in their lives. A lot more internalization, a lot more constriction, a lot more depression and anxiety and trauma coming up. A
Mm.
lot of families couldn't, or families and relationships weren't able to weather the storm. And so I think there's just a lot more that's being brought to the surface, and people are now seeing, oh my gosh, maybe it's really any, maybe I can take this momentum and make a shift. So knowing that there's something like this out there that may help, that they didn't even know, that maybe they didn't have any challenges before this, but now here we
Mm.
are. And I don't know, with social, can you tell me a little more about social anxiety? Is it something that is always there from a younger age, or could it have developed in the past couple of years?
It usually develops in teenage years.
Okay.
Though some people have it for as long as they remember. So even
Yeah.
before the age of 12. But it can also happen when you're 18 or 26 or whatever.
Yeah.
There can be a specific for a lot of people, there's a specific experience that kickstarts it. So for me at age 11, my favorite teacher, said, "Hey, Sebastiaan, can you move with your big Dumbo ears away from the television because we can't see anything?" And that particular comment at that particular moment, given the context of the setup, she was kind of like a replacement mom for me. Well, long story, but because of the setup, that made me blush, and that then formed a trauma capsule that got stored in my brain in procedural active memory. And then my brain wanted me to avoid the pain of that situation again. So whenever it saw a particular social situation where I could potentially feel that pain again, it activated all of the sight, sounds, smells, and tastes that are in that trauma capsule. And I felt like I felt in class all over again.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So.
Oh man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
It's just really fascinating for me to hear this, because I'm thinking, oh, I can remember some specific situations that caused trauma in my life, and just curious of like, oh, now I really want to try this tapping and just see what happens when I allow myself to go into that memory, go into that the emotions that I feel when I think of that memory, and see what this is like. So would you be willing to show me?
Yeah, I'm happy to show you. So I give you a proper answer of what social anxiety is. And this is just a personal question too. Have you ever found yourself in a particular situation where you felt your heart was racing, or you had a lump in your throat? Maybe, I don't know, you don't particularly seem to be someone who suffers from social anxiety to me. But I think most people can relate to, well, when I have to give a speech, or when I'm around someone that I'm very attracted to, or when I have to ask someone out on a date, or, something of that.
Totally. I've totally been there for sure. And I think, like, me personally, one of the challenges I still have, where I have that lump in my throat, the increased heart rate, my voice changes, all of that is still going. I know it's from my relationship with my dad. And so now when I meet, so there's a certain like energy to this person, but like men in perceived positions of power. And that was really challenging for me, because I worked with executives at Amazon. So I would be put in that situation all the time of like, I just have to force myself in there and be able to influence, but my heart rate's up, my throat is closed. I sound like, it's like, how do I relax myself? And I'm like, oh, if I had had something like this, it would have helped a lot. So
yeah. And did it go away?
Never went fully away. I think I tried different tools that helped. And again, I like you, I'm a personal development junkie. So I was always looking for, how do I lean into my fear? How do I, for me,
exactly.
It took me years. And for me, I think that learning how to do emotional release, like when you said it, just when you're doing the tapping, it feels like you just unplug and it just drains out. I have different techniques that help me do that. And that has helped me tremendously. Also, the fact that I don't work at Amazon anymore has helped.
Helped a lot. Yeah.
Exactly. Turns out
just
when you run your own
avoiding the
business,
triggering situation is brilliant. Yeah, right. But I asked that question for a reason, because typically just exposing yourself to the trigger, to the cue that triggers the reaction inside of you over and over, just reduces it a bit, but it doesn't get rid of the problem. That's why I'm passionate about this, because the mainstream idea, like I saw this Netflix documentary, and the guys was the so-called expert was asked, well, how do you overcome anxiety? It's like, well, we don't really talk about overcoming it. We talk about developing a different relationship with it. And while that is also an essential part of it, especially if you're dealing with it for a long time, it's going to take a longer time to overcome it. It's important that you change the relationship with it, that you come to terms with it, that you accept it, that you're compassionate towards yourself for the suffering that you're dealing with. But with tapping, with energy psychology, it's actually something that you can neutralize completely. So it's maybe hard to imagine, but with people in authority, you feel just as calm and at ease as you feel with your kids. So that's what's possible. That's what's amazing about this technique. Yeah.
So cool. All
right. Do you want me to demonstrate it, or
I really do. I'm like, I want to play along
download
with you. I want to try this.
All right. Okay. So I think it's a good idea. First, briefly show you where the main points are. Just seeing if my camera is good. and then I'll just guide you through it. So the first point is here at the tippy top of the head, where I'm kind of starting to bald, right?
Okay.
And so you tap gently, not so hard that it hurts, not so soft that you don't feel it. So
Okay.
that's the tippy top there. Then the next point's here at the beginning of the eyebrows. And you can tap with the right hand on the right side, or your left hand on the left side, or with both sides on, doesn't matter. You can cross over as long as you hit one of those points, doesn't matter. Next point is here at the side of the eyes, not at your temple, but here at the bony part next to the side of your eyes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you do one at one time, or do you do both at the same time? Does it matter?
You can choose, doesn't matter. Some people like to do two. Some people think that it adds more benefit. Nobody
like, is
really
it double
knows.
the power?
No, it's definitely not double the power. Double the effort, maybe a little bit more power, who knows. And then the next point is under the eye. So that's, again, your eye socket. So you feel that, that bone underneath your eye.
The bone.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the next point is under the nose. Next point is under the bottom lip.
In the little crease?
Yes, in that crease under the bottom lip. They call it the chin point, but it's not on the chin, it's in that indent. Then the next point is on the collarbone. It's a bit harder to find, but if you have your collarbone here and you follow it down, it ends in this thick knob. Underneath there's a little bit of space in between that thick knob and your top rib. Now, you got it. That's it. So you can tap with two or with one, doesn't really matter. And even if you don't hit these points perfectly, just the vibration of tapping in the general area will make sure you hit it. It's a very forgiving technique. This is not something like, I got to do it 100% perfect. No, not at all. Then the next point is like, if you're a lady, where the bra strap meets directly under your armpit. Yeah. If you're a man and you use your lady's bra, that's where it is. Yeah, directly there.
Here?
Yeah. And then the next point is the wrist point. So you've got some lines here on your wrist. You just slap those there. Now there are more points, but these are kind of enough for now. Okay. So then when you have these particular points, that's what you tap on. That's what does the releasing work. Now you need something to focus on. You need something to target at. You need something to aim at. So here I'm going to need your help a bit in terms of determining what we would want to work on for people. So if that is, well, I'm stuck and I don't want to change, that's something we can tap on. If that is, since I'm specializing in social anxiety, and there might be people with social anxiety, it's like, well, I've been in lockdown for a while. When I think about socializing, it makes me feel uncomfortable. Then we can focus on that.
Great. Okay.
What do you think?
Like whichever one you want to take the lead on, it feels great. I'll just play along with, I say, all right. What you're passionate and magical with the most, and we'll follow along at home.
Okay, good. All right, so I'm gonna assume that you have some social anxiety then. All right. Okay. And how would you know that? Well, there are probably certain situations that you avoid because they make you feel anxious. So, your situation, people of authority. So, well, maybe there are certain situations in which you are likely to run into people of authority. So you might probably avoid those situations because you don't want to deal with those feelings. Right. So you can think about that particular situation that you wish to avoid. That's one way to tune in. Okay. Another way to tune in is to think about a recent time where you were in a particular social situation and you felt uncomfortable or awkward. You can imagine that you're in one right now. So closing your eyes, imagining that there's a person of authority in the room there with you. Okay. Or you can imagine something that's upcoming. Okay.
Yep.
And I think we're going to select one. Let me see which one is good. I think we're just going to go by imagining being in a particular situation that triggers these feelings in your body. Now, when I say feelings in your body, what what you might experience is like a lump in your throat, your heart racing faster, maybe blushing leading up to your face, jitteriness, whatever, negative thoughts like, oh, they're going to reject me. What if they don't like me? I'm weird. Unacceptable. I have to do things right.
Will
I
I be
can't do
good
things
enough?
wrong.
Yeah.
Exactly. Will be good enough for them? They're better than me. I feel inferior. What if they see me anxious? They can't judge me. What if I'm going to embarrass myself? What if I make mistakes? Whatever. These thoughts and feelings come to the surface when you tune into the problem. And then that's what we can then focus on. Now, it's more challenging to demonstrate when there's not an actual person. And also, I'm trying to be as general as I can,
I know.
but that's generally not the way that is most effective. But I think we're still going to make a bit of a better feeling.
So the more focus you have, the more specific you can get, the easier it is to tune in to make this work.
Typically, yes. Yeah. So you want to tune into the problem in order to work on the problem. Kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. Now, if I was just watching this recording and I want to tune in my own specific thing, can we just do it like that? Can people at home just tune into whatever it is that's coming up for them that's causing those emotions?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Great.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, are you willing to do a little bit of an experiment on your actual interview?
I'm in. Right. I'm in.
All right. So why don't you think about a person of authority in the room with you? And notice what happens in your body as you do that. And if you're listening to this or you're watching this, imagine being in that particular social situation that you feel awkward or uncomfortable or anxious in. Just see what you would see, hear what you would hear, feel what you would feel, and then be aware of what you're feeling. And what is it for you?
So for me, it's my throat closed up right away. And I can feel like my whole chest also constrict, like all of me wanted to constrict. Constrict. And my stomach started hurting and my breath got short.
Okay. And if you were to rate your level of discomfort on a scale 0 to 10, 10 being most uncomfortable, 0 totally relaxed and at ease, what number would it be?
Oh, probably like an 8.
Okay. All right. Good. So you're now tuning in a particular way. We're going to do a little bit of work, and then I want you to afterwards tune into the exact same thing and see if things are shifting and changing. Okay. And you can simultaneously remain focused on that and keep your eyes open. Okay. So if you feel you want to close them, that's totally fine as well. Whatever keeps you tuned in the most.
Great. I'm going to close my eyes.
All right. So then just the challenge that we're having is you don't know the tapping points. So
I memorized them. Go ahead.
Oh, you memorized them. Okay. So tap on the beginning of your eyebrows. All right. Now, logically, we want to get rid of problems, but emotionally, our subconscious wants to keep them for whatever reason. It's not safe to let go of them. Maybe we don't deserve to let go of them. Maybe they're part of our identity, whatever. And so we want to address that first. So just say, I release all my resistances.
I release all my resistances.
And aversions. To letting go of this problem. And feeling calm at ease. And feeling calm and at ease.
And at ease.
And now just observe what happens. You don't have to do anything. Just let it happen. Okay, now tap on the side of the eyes. And just say, my throat feels constricted.
My throat feels constricted.
On the eyes. I have this tightness in my chest.
Okay,
and then just tap under your eyes. Okay. And my stomach is upset. on the nose, and just say, I restore the right energy flow
I restore the right energy flow
to my throat, my chest, and my stomach.
to my throat, my chest, and my stomach.
Okay, good. Tapping under your nose. And what are you aware of? No right or wrong answer.
Yeah. I'm aware that it's easier to breathe. My
Mm-hmm.
throat feels less, even when I hear myself speak, it's less crackly.
Mm,
My
yeah.
tummy is
There's,
more loose.
okay. And while you tap on your chin, just say, I release all my emotional attachments
I release all of my emotional attachments
to authority
to authority
and whatever it means to me.
and what it means to me.
Okay. Tapping on the collarbone. You say, I should behave this way.
I should behave this way.
And tapping under your arms, I shouldn't behave that way.
I shouldn't behave that way.
Wrist point, I can't behave that way.
I can't behave that way.
Top of that would be stupid.
That would be stupid.
Being the eyebrows, and I can't be stupid.
I can't be stupid.
Under the nose, I should be smart.
I should be smart.
Chin, smart people don't make mistakes.
Smart people don't make mistakes.
On the collarbone. So I gotta really watch myself.
So I gotta really watch myself.
Under the arms, I release all my emotional attachments
I release all of my emotional attachments.
to I have to watch myself.
So I have to watch myself.
And all the reasons why.
And all the reasons why.
Okay. All right. So let's just check in and what are you noticing?
Wow, that's what I'm noticing. It's yeah, I feel really open, really relaxed. I can feel things moving again. There's almost zero constriction in my throat. Everything else is loose.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, good. Now for people at home, if this, because this is challenging to do for me, if this didn't get you what you were looking for just yet, it doesn't mean that the technique doesn't work. It just means that the technique isn't specifically applied to your particular issue in the right way just yet. Okay. And it will work when you apply it in the right way and you are persistent with it. And typically, something like a problem with authority for the people that I work with. And by the way, this is not a plug for myself because I don't work with people at the moment and already don't for 2 years. So this is just to actually help you and to give you a proper perspective of what's going on. People that I work with, they have a trouble with authority, but that's just one of the 15 problems that they have. You know? And problem with authority is can be dealt with sometimes in half an hour, sometimes in 3 sessions, but it can be something that's eliminated completely. You know? Because what is happening in a moment when you're experiencing that is you're reverting back to, little Ari who's around her dad, and those feelings are still stuck, but you can fully process them until you get to the point where you're at your current age, in the present moment, with all your resources available to you, and you can just be normal and feel normal and be at ease. Yeah,
I love it. I love it. And so if I wanted to learn more, because I know you have some really incredible resources, free resources out there for people. If I want to learn more, how would I do that? How would I get a hold of your work?
Yeah, well, if you're dealing with social anxiety, that's the only thing I specialize in. That's the only thing I can help with. Then I can be helpful. Where to go, I'll tell you in just a sec. If you just want to learn more about tapping, you can go to Google and type in EFT tapping, or go to YouTube and type in EFT tapping. And while we were doing this work, I taught you, like, I used a couple of intention-based statements. I release all my emotional attachments to this stuff. Is amazing. It's incredible. Steve Wells, my colleague and friend, he's a psychologist. He's in his mid-50s. He discovered this technique, and it puts tapping on steroids. And you can learn about that at intentiontapping.com.
Okay.
My work, if you specialize, if you want help with social anxiety, you can go to socialanxietysolutions.com. I have a little mini course there, and consists of 11 5-minute videos. 6 of them I actually teach the technique to you, and the other 5 is like guided tapping on particular specific issues related to social anxiety. And it's also a little ebook that teaches you how to overcome social anxiety completely. And
wow,
that's
this
it.
is quite the starter kit. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I will make sure we include that in the links for everyone. This is really amazing. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with us, Sebastiaan? This is really cool.
Go try it out. There's it sounds really interesting. It sounds really exciting, but the real stuff happens when you actually apply this technique. And if it doesn't instantly give you the amazing relief that you're looking for, doesn't mean it doesn't work. Just means you need to get the proper assistance. And there are lots of amazing practitioners all over the world. So whatever it is that you're dealing with, there's help out there. And
I love it.
energy psychology is just amazing,
So cool. Sebastiaan, this is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing this and sharing your journey and
having me.
How you having to move through your own suffering and really hunt for so long for a solution that worked, brought you here, and now you're able to influence so many people. That's incredible. So thank you.
Good time.
All right. Well, I will get that link out to everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is an amazing tool to take with us as we move forward into this new era. And I'm so glad we could bring more exposure to it for everyone tuning in. So thanks a lot, Sebastiaan.
All righty.
Bye.